But let's not talk about that. We're like, okay. So, a couple basic questions, a couple things I wanted to like I said, a couple things I wanted to touch on before we start talking about Gatecreeper. Obvious, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Eric Wagner. I'm from Tucson, Arizona. I've been in, started the band Gatecreeper with some of the other dudes about 10 years ago now this year. I was in a bunch of bands that didn't really do much before that. Just played around Tucson. Been playing guitar for a long time. I've played just about every instrument, a bunch of different kinds of bands here in Tucson. Toured a little bit before Gatecreeper, but not much. But
take it easy. I got you.
But
No, I appreciate it. So how'd you get into playing guitar? What was your earliest influence as far as music goes, even outside of metal necessarily or anything like that?
So I started playing bass. Then I stopped and I started playing drums. But then I realized I wanted to write music, so I got, guitars like a lot easier to write music. And I remember laying to my friend Ryan, he was in Saros back in the day, remember Ryan, whatever.
Yeah, I remember. Drummer?
He was a bass player.
I remember.
Ryan Rampman. I was laying on the ground of his house just playing this like Squire he had. And I remember I saw on like MTV or something, someone showed you how to play a power chord. And I tried it and I hit it and I was like, damn, that's badass. And it was like the first time I felt like the power of guitar.
Yeah. And when about was this?
I was probably like 14 or something.
So you only started playing when you were 14?
Maybe, yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe a little. Yeah,
so how come when I started playing at 14 and we were doing shows together at the same time, you were ripping and I was having trouble getting through it?
right. I may have been earlier. I don't know. I'm just like guessing the times, but yeah, I don't know. I just really became obsessed with it, man.
Were you always into music, or it just kind of happened at random?
Yeah. I've always loved music. My mom always said when I was a little baby, she could put on blues and stuff, and I would just sit there and listen to it. She would be like a babysitter. So I just always loved music, and my parents listened to music. My sister did too, and so I was always around it. So.
And you've always had a knack for it. I mean, without putting you on the spot, I mean, you're obviously a very talented guitarist or musician in general. So, I mean, it's just I always tend to wonder how that comes together, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just interesting, or not so much interesting. I tend to wonder the genesis of people when people get to a high level at something, how they even just came across it. If it was similar to other people that kind of chill out, you know? Yeah.
I feel like I have a connection to music, I never did well in school necessarily, and I have really bad dyslexia.
Yeah.
And so I'm not very good at math and stuff, learning grammar and all that shit. It's I even if I wanted to, I'm just really bad at it. But when I play music, I feel like I understand it, and maybe it's something in my head. And, maybe
everybody's different, man.
Goes beyond dyslexia or whatever.
Yeah, everybody's different. The way that they, we all. It's a cliche type of thing. It's everybody has It's not even necessarily everybody's got a special talent, because I know a couple people that just suck all around, myself included most of the time. But it's the way we process things. It's you might be good at one thing, bad at another. It's just, there's more than just the type of intelligence that, they try to push on you in elementary school or whatever.
No, exactly.
But appreciate it. Yo, I'm going to keep this running. Sure. I'm going to go inside for 2 seconds and see if she'll turn down the music a little bit.
Sure.
So sorry about that. But she hooked me up. She's real cool. Shout out to the Mint. All right. So just to get it out of the way, concrete answer. Earliest influences as far as like first band you ever really got into.
Me, you know, my friend Luke growing up, he got that he got a tape. It was that Misfits Plan 9 comp.
Yeah.
The green one. And he bought that. He went on a trip to California and he got that and a Rage Against the Machine tape. And I remember he had a like tape recorder that we would listen to it from, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember that was probably like one of the first like heavier things. And he literally didn't know anything about the Misfits. He just bought it
Because it looked cool.
Because that skull.
Yeah, like everybody.
So it was but it was literally like, oh cool, a skull. You know, back in the day, that's how you judge shit. And so like, I remember he came home with that, and just from there, I like, you know, you got into like all sorts of stuff. You know? But like, you know, like I loved like, of course, like all the normal shit too, like Pantera and Metallica and all that.
So
stuff.
just like watching MTV, sitting around.
Yeah.
Pantera, Metallica.
Headbangers Ball, like the Jimmy Josta years, when I was, you know, younger, it was like, I would like sit at home and watch that, especially like because I was getting into metal. You know, that's like without like the real internet, like it's the only place to find that shit, other than going to the record stores and just trying stuff out.
Yeah. So something I wanted to ask that I've always wondered and never really felt compelled to like drill you about it, but for the sake of this interview, I think it's probably like would make for an interesting take on things.
Sure.
You came up, like the way you and I know each other is from playing at like the Dry River in like 2007.
Yeah.
Now, obviously that was, you know, I mean there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of like power violence and grind and stuff, but that was essentially a punk scene.
Yeah.
And you were not playing punk at all. You weren't even like a punk band that was like getting into metal. You were just doing fucking death metal.
We were just playing metal
at like skate punk shows.
Oh yeah.
So how the fuck did that happen? And what drew you to that?
So my sister, she's like 5 years older than me. She was always into like you know, she was into ska and she was into hardcore and she was into, you know, metal and all that stuff. And so when I was like pretty young, she gave me a Cannibal Corpse CD in my Christmas stocking for Christmas. And I remember listening to it, and it was just out of nowhere. I was like, and I tell this story all the time, but I was just like, what the fuck is this? Because I had never heard death metal before.
Yeah.
And I remember first hearing it, I like had no idea what was even happening. But then, you know, it just like clicked. I was like, this is fucking sick.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, I would go to, I think it was CD City over on Campbell. Behind the Rubios. It's not there anymore. There was a place, I think it was called CD City.
I thought I was thinking about PDX, or not PDQ.
I would go there too, but there was this place, CD City on Campbell. I would go there, and I would just look through and find the metal stuff.
Yeah.
And like just look for the art. You know, it was just like how we found the Misfits. The fucking tape, you know, it's like, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I remember like finding like 6 Feet Under and like all this stuff. I don't know, I just really got into metal, and most of my friends were into punk and stuff. And I remember going to Scrappy's, and I had a power violence band called Crutch with my friend Evan, and we would play with like like Female Snake, which was Sex Prisoner before they became Sex Prisoner, and you know, play with them and stuff. But I just like, you know, I'd hang out with some of the hardcore kids a lot, but then there was this time in the hardcore scene where it just became kind of like.
Can you do that one more time?
It was kind of like,
I'm an amateur.
it's all good. But there was this time when like, I don't know, I felt like the hardcore scene was like less political and just more like bro kind of, you know? Just, you know, when you're younger, like whatever. And I was always a little more political when I was younger. That's kind of how I found Dry River.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, and like more punk rock stuff.
Yeah.
Well, like Screaming Dog Army and all that stuff was like, they were playing at Scrappy's, you know, so I like met that stuff. But I don't know, I've always been friends with whoever, but I always liked metal.
Yeah, you've always been like an agreeable ass dude. I mean, no one I know has any ill will towards you whatsoever.
Yeah, but I like what I like, but I feel like in Tucson there's not that many people, so you're kind of like, if you're going to be a part of like an actual scene, that I think it's all different kinds of people. There's not enough people to just have the metal scene.
Yeah.
You know, not like hanging out at the Rock, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to like, goddamn, just to kind of like tighten it up in a sense, because that was all good shit that I'm going to try and transcribe into some sort of article. But you started your band Crutch, right? I remember Crutch, by the way. I didn't really like become familiar with you until Saros, but I remember Crutch. That being said, you started that band. You were playing at Scrappies and stuff with Female Snake. Or no, they were Iraqi Blood Machine.
They were. Yeah, there was IBM. There was Female Snake.
Yeah. And then you started. So I guess you just heard about Dry River through the grapevine and kind of became like entrenched in that scene a little bit.
Yeah, I don't even know how I got over there.
Yeah.
It's all like I'm old enough now where it's kind of like my timeline's going off. But I don't know. I just like really fell in love with Dry River. It was just fun.
It was a cool spot,
and I was like really looking to do other stuff too. And I we did like the pirate radio station and shit.
Yeah.
That was really fun. I got learned how to screen print. Like maintaining just the space. I don't know. It felt like for the first time it was like somewhere where I could go and I could be, not in charge obviously, but like I could create my own stuff there. It was a space where I could go do whatever and learn how to book shows and all that shit.
Yeah, they were open to things.
It just kind of worked out,
it was just so. One of my other questions was, you guys were a very competent death metal band, essentially. Or, compared to what you're doing now, maybe not so much. But you guys were a solid metal act, right?
Yeah.
And, you were doing that little scene at the Dry River that we were all kind of a part of consistently. Did you ever have any experience in the metal scene in Tucson back in those days? Or was it all just playing on punk and hardcore shows?
I feel like it was... so they're, remember the living room?
Yeah.
I remember playing there with Gina Cost.
Okay.
But I was, and they were cool, and it was fine. But I never hung out with those people.
Yeah.
I would play metal shows there.
Yeah.
It was a little more dudes that were only into metal.
Yeah.
Less punk dudes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I never felt like I was a part of that group. They were a lot of those people hung out at the Rock, and I was a little too punk rock for that.
Yeah, the Rock was a rough one back then, man. It really was.
You know what I'm saying? As a young kid that's looking to you feel like you're gonna fucking have a political band, you're gonna express yourself and be a punk. It's that stuff just wasn't where it was at.
No, I could never fucking vibe the rock scene personally. It was I don't know. To be honest, there was tension between my bands and the Dry River too towards the end, which was whatever. I never took it too personal, but it was the Dry River, for whatever issues people may have had with it, was a lot more visceral.
Yeah.
And then when it was going to the Rock, it just felt like a bunch of bands that were trying to lowest common denominator, battle of the bands type shit.
Exactly.
Oh, if we play this battle of the bands and pay $100, we might get scouted by a label.
I was looking.
It's nah.
Yeah, I was looking for something bigger than just that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I guess we covered that. Coming up, playing in the metal on the punk scene. How and why? All right. Other bands you had, I know you already kind of mentioned them, but before Gatecreeper, if you're just for the sake of brevity, could you list off the bands off the top of your head that you can remember that you were a part of?
I had one called Dialectic. Mm-hmm. That was probably one of my first real bands.
Okay.
Maybe second or third, but I had one called Vomitorium.
Nice.
Which is a death metal band. Saros. That was a death metal band. You remember that. Crutch. Power Violence band. And then just a million bands that were just we just played one show. I remember we had one called Marijuana.
Nice.
It was me and Ryan Preble, some other people. Total Bullshit was kind of a hardcore Power Violence band that I had.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah, I was a drummer.
Oh, sick. I didn't know that.
There was probably even more. I remember we had me and Andy Barada had just a joke band called Cryo Burn.
Nice.
We would just play, we wouldn't stop, and we would just play until whoever booked the show made us stop. So, that's a bunch of them, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Saros is probably the most of a thing, and then Crutch was kind of around for a little while, but it's cool that you were doing all that, man. That was always a fun experience.
Well, then having Dry River, it's like you can make a band and then go play a show right away.
Yeah, that's a side note because it's like kind of, I remember like when we had our bullshit band and we were like wanting to like, you know, play with other people and stuff. And we kind of like knew the guys from the Dry River, like some of the people in that scene, like Hot Trash and stuff. But we didn't like know that much of what was going on because we were kind of like into it. We had some friends like Griffin, our friend who we went to high school with, who I played in bands with and stuff.
Yeah.
He was in Hot Trash and he was aware of that. But I remember going on fucking MySpace of all places and seeing Bone Cutter Records and they had like 16 bands on their label. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, we gotta fucking reach out to these guys. We should be hanging out with these dudes. And then once I started hanging out with those guys, I realized that of the 16 bands, it was like the same 8 people.
Sure. That's how it is.
I was like, wait a second. I thought this was a little bit more expensive than you made it out to be.
8 dudes making 16 bands.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Sarah's used to use like a lot of occult symbolism and stuff.
Yeah.
I think, what was it, Dionysian Ritual?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff.
They had all these crazy pentagrams and everything. I was looking for the CD before I left, but I didn't want to hold you up. So
I'll have to hook you up. I think I have a bunch of the 7 inches.
I have it.
Yeah. I have like 200 because no one.
Yeah, right? I mean, shit, I'll take a couple, fuck it. But I was looking for them because I wanted to look over it. Was there any significance to that? Is that an important thing, or were you just like looking up shit that looked cool?
I was like looking it up and reading about it.
Yeah.
My sister was always kind of into some of that stuff, so there was always like books around.
Yeah.
You know, like weird occult stuff. And then I remember my mom had all these books for like what was it called, like Don Juan, and this weird like new agey kind of like magic stuff.
Yeah.
My mom was definitely like a crystal lady, you know. And
Yeah.
And like, it's like I always like flip through those books and kind of read about it, you know. But then like, I don't know. I think I was young, and I was like trying to have lyrics that had some meaning. I was just kind of exploring shit.
Yeah.
It was just like metal shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's all most metal. You just fucking
just like looks cool. It
quote a
means
horror movie
rotting.
or like read something.
I remember one of the symbols meant like rotting.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's sick.
Hell yeah, dude. Throw it on there. I mean, it was a big part of your artwork, though, so that's why I was wondering if it has any like lasting impact on you.
That's cool.
It's interesting. I read into that shit all the time.
Yeah, no, I like that stuff.
I like it, but I try not to get too deep into it. I get paranoid. So when you started playing guitar, I mean, obviously you're really fucking good. Were you just practicing your ass off? Was that just like...
Yeah, I would play like constantly.
You just got obsessed with it?
Yeah, I was obsessed. And it was mostly writing. So
Yeah.
like I loved writing. And even to this day, I don't really practice new stuff or like learn people's songs. I just write. And that's kind of how I taught myself in a way. Like, we never did cover songs. My bands never did cover songs. I was never into that. I just really got into writing.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to like I was playing bass, I was playing drums, and I was like, I want to write. And that's, even to this day, that's when I play guitar. It's because I'm writing. I don't just play for fun necessarily. And that's fun for me, obviously. But like, well, I love the craft of like writing and creating.
And do you know about music theory and stuff, or do you just kind of...
a bit. I did some lessons at one point.
Yeah.
I did some music lessons at like Rainbow Guitars when I was younger. So like I learned some of that stuff, and I bought some books and stuff, and I would like read about it and try to get into it. But I don't know. I mostly also that stuff goes back to my like learning disabilities and shit, where I'm just like I don't know, that stuff doesn't go into my head, but I can figure shit out just from the sound.
Yeah.
So.
I can't improve at anything unless I'm doing it.
Sure, I'm with you, man.
You know, The only problem is I'm usually starting at a pretty low. So everybody has to see my ass when I'm trying to make stuff, because I can't. If I don't do it and put it out, like I won't. I could sit and I've done it. I could sit and fucking practice for like fucking 24 hours a day every day and get nowhere. But then like if I just go and do something that's I'll get not good at it, but it's the only it's application.
It's like learning from mistakes too. Like that was why Dry River was so great, is you could play like once or twice a week, and then you could fuck up and be like, oh shit, I need to get better at that.
Yeah, take a note of it and actually turn around and fix it.
Exactly.
You practice. Dude, practicing would make me worse sometimes, because I would just fucking do the same thing wrong 1,000 times.
And it's not the same as like playing live. So sometimes you're practicing and you get up there and you can't actually do it.
Yeah. So what about starting Gatecreeper? How do you guys end up coming together? Because I know Chase right? Chase?
Yeah.
Chase is from
Jason's
Phoenix.
from Mesa, and was living up there in Phoenix.
And then Sean was a founding member, and he
No, it
was...
was Sean came in after, so it was
okay.
it was Matt, our drummer, who was from Tucson.
Okay.
And Chase, and then so I was living with Matt. He was my roommate, and we had a couple bands. There's another band. We had a fake skate band. Neither of us really skated. It was called Dark Slide. I thought it was funny.
And you had SUV.
Yes, SUV too. Yeah, no, I can't forget SUV. But me and Matt just started like playing, and he had a space in Pennington downtown.
Yeah.
So we would just play in there. We would just start bands and just do whatever, you know. And so then I already knew him and I lived with him. And then Chase somehow got into contact with him and was like, well, I want to start a band that's like how Gatecreeper is.
Yeah.
And they were like kind of hanging out, jamming just for like a couple weeks. And then Matt was like, oh, do you want to be involved in this? I was like, hell yeah. And then I literally drove to Phoenix and went to Chase's house to meet him.
Yeah.
And start the band, like start playing.
Yeah.
So I had like some songs. I don't think we used any of them because they were so different than what he was trying to do. But like I brought my laptop and I had like songs and stuff. But that I met Chase and started in Gatecreeper at the same time. So it wasn't, me and Matt had known each other, but me and Chase.
And then Chase and Matt knew each other?
But they had met each other just purely to play music.
And you started as a three-piece?
Yeah.
And then you just got a bass player
And
later?
then we wrote that first EP, and I most of the credit goes to Chase and Matt for that, but I was there doing it.
Yeah.
And that first EP, and we recorded it, and then we were like, okay, we want to play shows, we want to tour, we want to release music. So we needed other people. So we found this dude Max from Phoenix who plays guitar, and Sean.
Okay.
Who I had known, you know.
Yeah. Sean's a good dude, man.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while. He's a good dude.
I haven't either.
All right, so actually that was kind of... That answers that question really well, and you pretty much answered this one, but I'm going to ask again. Sure. What was the MO when you started the band? Because you guys came together, you said you didn't even know him outside of, like, you only met him to play music.
Yeah.
So what happened? You guys just jammed one time, and you were like, all right, we're going to take this shit all the way?
So Chase had just gotten sober from, like, doing heroin like 6 months before.
Yeah.
So he was kind of, like, using the music as a way to, like, to focus on something new, you know, put the tweaker energy to that, you know what I'm saying? And, like, so he was, like, driven.
Yeah.
He was like, we're doing this, fucker. I was like, yeah. And for me, honestly, like I had toured to Saros and stuff, and I never really thought anything would happen. And I was kind of just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And so I think when it just came together, and our goal once we actually had music, we were like stoked on it.
Yeah.
Our goal was straight out of the gate, we want to have everything look pro. I don't want to release like a true demo. I want to get good recordings, even if we had to pay for it. Because we were a little older, we're already in our like 20s, you know.
Yeah.
And probably 25, and and so we wanted everything to be like solid. So like, we got merch and all that shit like already, and before we even put the music on the internet. So it was just like we were trying to collectively take what we learned from being in bands before, but then put it together and like be smart about it.
So I think, just to weigh in on something, I think one of the advantages, not that I've ever actually managed to fucking take a band to any level of like just not being drug addicts, but
sure.
Fucking like when you're doing shit on the hardcore scene or the punk scene. I mean, I guess the Dry River scene was a hardcore. It wasn't like there was very little 77 punk going on there.
There was all sorts of shit.
It was crazy. Like it was for all intents and purposes, it was hardcore. It just wasn't always the hardcore that's popping.
It wasn't hate breed.
Yeah, exactly. But when you were playing in like the hardcore punk scene, I guess if you do want to. The best analogy, it's like a lot of guys in like the UFC that start off doing wrestling are like really good. Because even though it's not like MMA, it's like they get all that performance anxiety off their chest.
Sure.
They get all that thinking on your feet. They develop a type of strength and stamina.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
that's outside, and that's probably different than the other competitors.
Yeah, and just rawness, because that's a straight sprint. And I mean, it just popped in my head. I'm not even like a big MMA fan or anything.
Sure.
But it's like that's something that's strange I noticed, because I noticed like a lot of bands where like guys are sitting in their house practicing, they're trying to make it, and it just there's like a lack of authenticity. But then a lot of times when like hardcore guys or punk guys decide they finally want to get their shit together, it's like the learning curve is way.
It just kind of blasts off.
Yeah.
I think what it is that if you're involved,
they're putting the reps in, dude.
They're putting the reps in, but also I think there's the ability because of the infrastructure, you could say, of hardcore. It's like there's always shows happening. So if you know the right people, you can jump on the show.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like I put the reps in of like I was able to play so many shows, and we played constantly, all our bands, everyone.
Yeah.
That we all were like, we had like hours of like reps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I played a lot of fucking shows before I was in Gatecreeper.
Yeah.
And like I knew a bunch of stuff. I had toured. I had to do a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? I had to manage the band. I had to get transportation and all that shit. And all, you know, and like Chase had that too. Chase was trying to do all that stuff.
He has like a background in.
Yeah, like he played in some Phoenix bands like Slut Sister and all this shit.
Yeah.
So he was doing stuff, and like so we were able, like as a little bit older, but also just starting that project, that we were able to just like quickly get off the ground.
It kind of gets your, like, even though that shit is fun, and I think it's probably like the essence of what music should be, it also kind of gets your like appetite for the bullshit. Like by the time you started Gatecreeper, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I can only imagine you had played so many underground independent shows. You had probably experienced most of what that had to offer.
Sure.
And you're like, okay, like you weren't coming out trying to get signed and then playing your first show, and then like, you know what I mean? Like you had all the underground like sweaty. So you were like, you had your fill, and you were able to kind of.
Well, and but the thing is too is when we started Gatecreeper, I don't think I was ever even thinking. I never even thought about even getting level. Like for me, being in a band was just playing.
But you knew what to do right and what to do wrong.
We did, absolutely. Yeah. But I never looked at it. My goal was never to get signed.
Yeah.
Because I had never been signed before.
No, for sure.
And so all of my experience was just like, I just want to have a sick band. I want people to like run around and go crazy. You know, Dry River used to be like really fun.
Yeah.
Or wherever you were playing. And I wanted that. And so it was a true focus on the music. It wasn't a focus on anything else.
Well, you also get that because when you're really doing it for the love of it,
sure,
there's so much better. There's so much more integrity behind that, I guess.
Yeah,
that it comes through in the sound.
It does.
You know what I mean? So that's probably why people like you guys so much, because y'all were doing it for the and are doing it for the love of it.
We just do it for ourselves. Like we're really not trying to do anything.
Yeah.
And if we do try to do something, it's because we want to as artists.
But it is safe to say you guys want to do it well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No nonsense.
Yeah, it's always their goal is always to be like as good, everything from merch to music, as good as possible.
Yeah. So what was, when you guys decided you wanted to start the band? And obviously anybody who listens to Gatecreeper, we all have an idea of what you sound like.
Sure.
But, no, and it's not necessarily true, because I remember not the last album you came out with, but the one before that, wasn't it like half doom metal and half
It was
death
like
metal?
grind. It was like 7 grind songs and then a 12-minute doom song.
Yeah.
It was like...
So, which I fucking love, by the way, and it all still sounds like there's a consistent through line. But what were your, like, when you guys decided you were going to start the band, when you and Chase and Alex, right? Alex?
It was Matt.
Matt, I apologize.
Yeah, it's all good.
When you, Chase, and Matt first met, and you were in a room together, what band did you say you wanted to...
So Chase and Matt...
let's make a band like this.
Chase and Matt wanted Entombed.
Okay.
And Dismember.
Okay.
Mostly Entombed, like you could just say Entombed.
Yeah.
On our EP, there's literally Entombed riffs. Like we literally like were nodding to them so much that we were like, let's like make a riff that sounds exactly like one of their songs.
Yeah.
So it was you know, kind of like a Wolverine Blues. That's one of their records, Entombed records. It's like, it sounds exactly. I mean, that's exactly what.
Yeah, so I'm not.
That's what it sounds like. That's exactly what we were trying to do.
So Entombed and who?
Dismember.
Okay.
Mostly just Entombed at the beginning.
Yeah.
And even that guitar sound, like the Swedish, the buzzsaw kind of sound that we have. Like that's. We were like, let's do a band like that.
I've never personally been like all in on death metal.
Sure.
But as far as the death metal that I do really fuck with, Entombed is on top of the fucking
Sure.
list.
And honestly, when I joined the band,
Yeah.
I liked more technical stuff. Like I liked Decapitated, Cannibal Corpse, Nile, fucking a bunch of that shit, real fast shit. And that was like, I remember when I brought my computer up to hang out with Chase for the first time, like I had a bunch of super like tech deck, not tech deck like sweeps and shit, but like, you know, like Cannibal Corpse. Like their shit's hard to play. Like I had stuff like that I wanted to play. So honestly, once we kind of got the vision like settled, and like I had to like kind of like change how I wrote stuff, because I was always just writing like, you remember like Saros, like it was like pretty like it was like kind of like noodly, like like kind of a little bit complicated shit and fast, and so that's kind of my tendency. But now I've figured out how to do the slower stuff that Gatecreeper does, the mid tempo, and I really like it.
Yeah,
but it was a transition though for me.
So, and Chase has a history in the hardcore scene as well. I believe, right?
A little bit. I don't even know. Like,
I don't know him personally, man. I think I might have met him in passing once. I see his shit on the internet sometimes. Something
Chase is into all sorts of stuff. He was also into punk and stuff growing up.
Yeah. But how did coming up, and maybe it's, I don't know if it's from both your perspective or one, coming up playing on, we kind of covered it. I think we actually went super deep on it, but when I turn around and I have to make a fucking article out of it, it's going to make it easier. How did coming up in the hardcore scene, just in maybe one sentence or two sentences, how did that affect your mentality, like how you approach the band?
Sure.
And do you think it reflects on the sound or your approach to things to this day?
I think it allowed me and helped me take control of the band. I know a lot of bands wait for stuff to happen, but I feel like in hardcore you make it happen.
Yeah.
That was something. Also, it was a focus on the live show, and that's always been a focus for me, Gatecreeper, and I think everyone in the band. We write songs if we're thinking about how people might react live. Yeah. Because that's the best. It's live. Yeah. That's my favorite. Also, focusing on the music and not focusing on making money or getting signed. And those are all tenets and kind of things that exist within hardcore. Maybe not now. Now it's like crazy. Like people are playing to like 10,000 people.
It seems like it's crapping off hard lately.
But back in our day, you'd play to fucking 10 people almost every show.
I'll be honest with you, that's kind of part of what I've been. It's I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. That's kind of part of my minor contribution is I want to put light on new bands coming up.
Sure.
But I try to interview like legacy people and like old heads. Because I just, hardcore's getting real big through like TikTok and stuff. And I mean, I think it's awesome, and I think these kids got a lot of heart and they're making great music. But at the same time, I'm like, you need to get some fucking perspective and realize there's people that like dump their whole lives into this that were playing to like 20 people.
Well, they set the groundwork so that now that hardcore people can play to 5,000 people.
Yes.
I mean, there was years and years of. I remember 2007. There'd be 10, 20 people at a show.
Yeah.
And we'd have a fucking blast.
But there was
no one there.
I want to preserve that integrity.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
And nowadays, it's like these bands start, and within a year, they're like sponsored by Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah.
They're getting money, and they have like shirts with like corporate sponsors. And like whatever, do your thing. Make money if you can.
Yeah, make your money. I want you to thrive.
But also like, I feel
understand the struggle.
But also, I think there's a bunch of bands that they instantly have a tour bus. They don't have those years of like just struggle and learning. It's like probably being on one of those fucking crab fishing boats where it's like you have a newbie come out and then you have a guy that's been doing it for 10 years. It's probably a totally different fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's also just like the, and it's not a deeper conspiracy, but I think like media has become so decentralized lately, and hardcore is kind of hardcore and underground metal, because you guys are a metal band, but you're very tied to the hardcore scene. There's like this through line, and I feel like, the network that was kind of developed on the ground and all that independent thinking and all that activism and all that just DIY culture, the mainstream has pretty much totally fizzled out.
Sure.
But there's still these entities out there wanting to make money. The hardcore scene is like the next best thing for them to jump on and fucking ring out.
The moment that
because they ruin their own network.
The moment that there's not 5,000 people at a hardcore festival and it goes back to 200, the corporate people won't give a shit about it at all. Like I remember there's a band, I think it's Speed right now, they're hardcore, and they're in a Nike commercial. There's Nikes made for them. And I'm like, and these are bands that are like super, they're against like genocide and Palestine and all this stuff, but also they're like
they're also selling
but they're
slave
teaming,
shoes.
Yeah, they're teaming up with Nike and like selling shoes that are like made by kids.
Yeah,
slaves, and it's like I don't know. It's just a strange thing. I don't know.
Well, it's like they always have. First of all, I'm very much against the whole that situation.
Sure,
I really am. But that being said, it's a strange checklist of what you can, like what's fashionable to be like against and what's not. It's like a band will endorse one thing that may or may not be valid, and then turn around and do something else completely hypocritical, which you can't necessarily blame them, because it's like, look, man, I know Nike's fucked up, but I wear their sneakers too.
Well, and no one's perfect.
Yeah.
And I feel like back in the day, the system was maybe a little smaller.
Yeah.
Where it was like, we were like playing at Dry River. Like there's less factors going into it, but now it's like most of the bands only exist on the internet. So there's so much more. There's like, you're getting hit up by shoe companies. Like, when we had our bands, like that wasn't even like, I didn't even think that was going to be
you play a million shows and hope that someday somebody from fucking Phoenix might come up on your CD.
like heavy music back in the day was like just completely removed.
Just self-destructive behavior.
Yeah, like going on tour, I was just like, okay, we're gonna lose money every tour for the rest of my life. And this is just how it is. Now it's different. It's a totally different world.
I don't even think. I think just like I don't want to turn this on myself at all, but I just think it's funny, and I'm trying to be conversational here. I just think, considering how self-destructive me and my friends were just by nature back then, I think the only reason we were even involved in doing that shit was because we were just like compulsively self-destructive.
Sure.
I mean, that was it. We're like, what bad thing, what unhealthy, like, ridiculous thing can we do? Let's start a fucking hardcore band.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's do that, because that's like the next best thing to like smoking meth. It was
exactly.
Which, I mean, it was disgusting, but it was also like there was some level of integrity to it. I feel like
it was like, I don't know. It was just a way to live your life.
That doesn't apply to you at all. I'm just saying, like,
no, but I was the same way.
Up. Yeah.
Well, I didn't join up and start going to hardcore shows or metal shows because I wanted a fucking Nike deal.
Yeah, because I thought it was a good idea.
We went because I didn't want to fucking go do anything else.
Yeah, because it got me off.
Fuck around.
Yeah.
I wanted to hang out with dudes and people that cared about shit too. Yeah. That was more of my thing. But like, whatever.
Well, you
make fucking magazines and like do cool shit.
Yeah, that was the thing I took away from that scene the most of anything, was just the. I feel like it's extremely important to, I mean, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But if you have any capability or if you have any drive, I feel like everybody should be putting stuff out. Yeah. And there should be so many, like, obviously there's a lot of opportunity through the internet, but I feel like every individual should be trying to express themselves and make that shit known in one way or another to the best of their ability. And I mean, I do get annoyed sometimes when like a band will get up on stage and like they clearly haven't practiced and there's like no tongue-in-cheekness to it, and it's like, that could be kind of frustrating sometimes. Like, I want some effort to be put in, whatever, but I feel like people should be out there, make a zine, dude, start some sort of, I don't want to say charity, but start something like, if you feel strongly about something, do something about it, do a fundraiser.
Well, that's the beauty of underground music, or it just heavy music, hardcore, metal, punk, whatever, is that you don't have to play guitar, you don't have to play an instrument, you don't have to sing. You could have a thing, you could have a table with cool books at the show. Yeah. You could make zines, you could make flyers, you could make art for band shirts, you could print shirts. There's so many ways to get involved, and every single thing is just as important as the rest. And that is what is cool about underground or just heavy music. Yeah. Like pop music, that doesn't exist. Like, you have huge companies that do everything. But in heavy music, like, you can take dumbass kids like us, and maybe not everyone makes it, but you can have kids that like, I've toured the world now, and it's just because it's just because some dudes some people were like, yo, come hang out at my venue. Yeah. And you can like forge a path. Yeah. And you can do it yourself, and I think that is something that is like, that is unique about this kind of scene.
I think the community aspect because even to this day, I'll say one thing, no matter how, that's the one thing beautiful about it is even though there is a commercial element to it, and even though it's getting huge right now, there's no, for kids to experience this, even today, no matter how big it gets,
Sure.
they still have to go out and be around other people.
Exactly.
And when you're out among other people, you might learn something, you might hear about something.
Yep.
I feel like there's a big problem with, it's kind of the monopolization of information these days, which you would think with the internet being so prevalent, and for a while it did, but it kind of had this bell curve. I feel like censorship's actually getting worse now, because people are less inclined, when it was just the TV and the radio, people would spend more time in their communities learning about what the fuck was up.
Well, you had to.
Yeah. Now you could go to the internet for everything, and they've gotten really good at curating what you do and don't
There's
hear.
no way to ground truth in it. You don't even know if it's real, what you're getting. I feel like after COVID, so the couple years where there were no shows, there's a bunch of kids that were cooped up at home. They weren't being as social as they should have been. And so they were going on the internet and they were finding heavy music because that's a great outlet for all that shit.
Yeah.
But there was no shows to go to. So I noticed right when shows came back after COVID, it was kids.
Exploded.
It was exploding, which is cool. But the kids had learned about it purely through media and the internet and YouTube. And so it was like, whereas you have kids that have to learn things through experience from like actually going and like meeting people, they were learning it on the internet.
Yeah.
And so it's these kids that dressed like they had been going to shows forever, or dressed like they were from the 80s, but had never been to a show before.
Yeah.
And it was the weirdest thing ever. And I think that was like...
Which is also, I've never been much of a, I've never been super into the... I'll hit two-step every once in a while, dude,
Sure, whatever.
I'll jump in a slam pit, but I know some people that are all about that, and all the older dudes that I know who, were really into the fucking, dancing... Everybody's just obsessed, and even I notice it, even though I was never big on that aspect of it. It's like, kids are always dancing. It sounds fucking so stupid to bring up, but it is funny. Like, kids are always doing the wrong type of dance to the wrong parts. Yeah, they never know when they're supposed to circle pit, when they're supposed to slam, when they're supposed to two-step.
And I feel like when we were kids, it was like everyone was just doing whatever, and I remember people were smiling.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I was always just like, let's have a fucking let's be stupid. I remember bringing office chairs into the pit, just fucking doing all sorts of dumb shit. But nowadays, it's like kids think they're supposed to be aggressive and hurt each other.
Well, that's
and it's
always...
that stuff's cool, but also it's in a weird. It's a showy. They want to be on camera. Kids now want to be on camera.
I mean, I'm all for the. I don't know. I would get rough sometimes back in the day.
Sure.
But sometimes I'll see people crowd killing. And, hey man, I get it. I would always try to avoid crowd killing for the most part. But it's dude, if someone's standing on the edge of the pit and they catch a fist, that's fine.
Sure,
but I'll see people literally run to the edge of the pit, jump over 4 people, and just start punching someone in the head who's clearly way out.
Yeah.
And it's dude, fucking all right. Well, chill.
So back in the day, maybe you do that, but you're doing it because you're just getting wild.
Yeah.
Nowadays, kids do that because they hope there's a camera that sees them, and they want someone to post a video. They want to. Exactly. That's all it is. That's the difference. Back in the day, you could do the same shit you could do now, but the intention was different. It was just, I'm gonna fucking go let off some energy.
Even if you were being a fucking crazy aggressive motherfucker, and even if it was hard to justify, at least you were just doing it because you fucking wanted to.
Exactly.
Instead of thinking somehow this is gonna up my clout. This is going to improve my life in some fashion.
Maybe I'll be in a viral video.
It is. It's hard, dude. The introduction of cloud culture, the introduction of the internet, and just cameras everywhere. It really, really, really makes it difficult to know when people are being genuine or not.
Sure.
And it's fucking. And I think that's the biggest. Aside from just dopamine fucking drip, that's one of the biggest things about the internet that I think causes a lot of mental health problems. No one knows when anybody is being fucking genuine.
Well, and now being disgenuine is more normal than what we would call genuine coming from where we're from.
No.
And so so now it's that weird obsession with the internet and being seen on the internet, that's the normal. You know what I mean?
It's fucking hard, dude.
So we're we just don't fit in anymore. Times have changed.
It is. We're finally getting to be old men, but we definitely had a weird coming of age, dude. Now we're almost officially old people, but we definitely had a coming of age that was very bizarre, dude. Because I grew up in what was essentially you know, I mean, I graduated in 2008, I think. And
that was 2007.
Yeah. So I grew up in that, you know, in the early 2000s, it essentially felt like the same story, like, you know, 90s Gen X type shit, basically. Like, you know, MySpace had popped off, but it wasn't. It had an effect, but it didn't feel like it was affecting us the same way.
It was more of like a tool. Like
Yeah.
I remember like using it to reach out to like people in
Yeah.
Salt Lake City to play a show.
You
but
would
now it's
actually-
your whole life is the internet.
Yeah, exactly. You would use it to make things happen in real life
Exactly.
versus living online.
Yeah.
And we had to experience everything kind of churning in that direction. So it's like by the time clout culture kind of fully took over, which I would say was probably around like 2016, 2017,
Sure.
we were still relatively young
Yeah.
guys. We were still in our 20s.
Yeah.
But it was just weird coming up that way. Just like everything that I thought was like how you get ahead and how you're a cool guy and how you're a good person,
Yeah.
like just totally got like
Changed. Yeah.
became irrelevant while I was still at an age where I would care about that type of stuff, you know?
Well, we used to print flyers and like,
Pass them out.
and that was the best way to get people to come to the show.
Yeah. I still do that though.
I know, I do. We do too. We have flyers for almost all the shows we do, and we get people to make them or we make them ourselves. But it's like, you know, but that was like back in the day. Like you didn't know about a show unless you went to fucking Bookman's and saw the flyer. You know.
Yeah, or Toxic Shock or fucking
Yeah, or wherever. You know.
anywhere you could.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually this conversation's been going great, but let's get back on track with the
Sure.
bullet points. You guys took off pretty quick after you started.
Yeah, we did.
And
we lucked out. I think there was a wave. There was
How
a
and
wave.
why?
So first of all, I think that when we decided that we didn't want to look like a local band
Yeah.
when we started. We wanted to be like, we wanted when we dropped our music and everything to look like we had just been around. And so we had merch that we thought was good. We had a recording that we thought was good. We had a show booked.
Yeah.
And before anyone even knew we existed.
Yeah.
And so then we dropped it all. We had our Bandcamp ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had our Instagram and all that shit. And it was like, or I think that's what we were using at this time. And like, and so one day we just existed. And it wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, here's some music guys are working on it. It was like, we exist. No bullshit. Not like, hey guys, you started a new band. It's like, no, here's the band. This is us.
Yeah, you just came out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, going back, putting your best foot forward and projecting what you want to be is very important.
We didn't want to be a local band. We were done with that. We
Yeah.
had all been doing that for years. We were like, what if we just made a band and came out kicking and acting like we were just a fucking established band? I think within like 5 days we got in like a Pitchfork article.
Yeah.
And like, that was like pretty hard to get into.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of exposure.
Yeah.
And then I think it just lined up perfectly where like there was a kind of like a wave of people getting in, especially in hardcore, getting into metal.
Yeah.
And then we just like, they picked up on it and took off. And it just kind of I think it was just timing.
Yeah. You guys blew up fast.
But then
man.
Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder, he got it. He picked our shit up really quick and was posting it all over.
Yeah.
The dude from Death Heaven was posting it. Like people from bigger bands were like hooking us up. So it was just kind of like, I don't know, something happened and it was just came out at the right time. And
Well, fucking heck. Good for
You
you.
know?
You guys certainly got the talent for it. So
well,
who
and
cares?
there was that band. Shout out to Black Breath, they're an incredible band. And they some people say we ripped them off, which I think is true. I love that band. I think they're fucking awesome. And they were doing what we were doing right before us,
Yeah.
and for a long time before. But I don't think the wave existed. So I think that they helped set the groundwork too. So like shout out to them because they're not around anymore. You
What's the songwriting process like in Bullet Points?
know?
It's mostly you and Chase, correct?
It is. Now it's everyone
Yeah.
with the new lineup. We have like Alex and Izzy now involved. But basically for up until now, like me and Chase will write his own songs, I'll write my own songs, and then we come together and we collaborate.
Yeah.
So like a lot of it's just me sending him songs and he'll listen and then like change stuff, and we kind of just like, because we don't live in the same city.
Yeah.
And
How
then
often do you guys see each other outside of tour and stuff?
I won't see them until like the end of next month, and so we'll get together a couple days before we do something. We'll practice a bunch.
Okay.
But the writing process is very much like there's generally Chase songs and there's my songs.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we always collaborate on them, and so but like the main ideas will be from one of us.
Right on.
You know what I mean? And then we just kind of work through them.
And then you do the band thing.
Yeah. Then now we like pull everyone in and we get everyone's opinion and we work on it. But
what was your first major tour, and what was it like getting signed?
I think the first package tour we did was Skeleton Witch. It was Skeleton Witch, Iron Reagan, and another band. What was it? I know, whatever. But that was like our first package. And then our first death metal tour was, true death metal tour was Cannibal Corpse.
That must have been
in 2018,
dope for you.
which is insane. It was us, Power Trip, and Cannibal Corpse. And I was so surprised we got that, but we had been touring our own tours for years, and Alex Webster, the bass player of Cannibal Corpse, told us that he put us on the tour because he saw us come to, he lives in Portland.
Yeah.
He saw us come to Portland several times in 1 year.
Yeah.
And he was like, he respected the work ethic, so he gave us a shot on that tour.
Shout out to the punk scene.
Yeah, no, seriously, which was awesome. So that was cool. Getting signed to, we had some like smaller labels that were fucking it was like helped us out, but like getting on like Relapse Records, which seemed like it was going to be this like big thing for us, but really it was just distribution was a little better.
Yeah.
And now getting on Nuclear Blast is like totally different. Like their distribution's huge. We actually get money now to like record and stuff.
Yeah. That's crazy. Like someone who I know personally, like being on a label like Nuclear Blast.
It's weird.
Which is just like I don't know. In my head, it's so foreign to me, dude. It's bizarre, but it's cool. It's awesome.
No, it is cool. It's just like, because I'm still just a fucking Tucsonite.
Yeah.
And I'm still just like, what the fuck are on Nuclear Blast? Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm like, Eric's on fucking Nuclear.
It's cool. It's cool. But also being in it, you kind of find that a lot of the stuff is like,
so everybody there's in the same boat.
It's just a tool, though.
Yeah.
It's like we want, it's really good for distribution. That's like the main thing. Of course, it's cool to be on it and they help us and stuff, but it's like it's just good for your distribution. Our record is being sold in places that we couldn't get just on our own. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, we'll be okay with that. We're gonna power through this because I don't want to keep you up too much.
Yeah, you're cool, man.
But this is going well, man. I'm enjoying it. What were some of the most interesting people you ever met? Whether they be like rock stars. I'll double up two questions actually. Most interesting people you've ever met through playing music, and then moment that you were like starstruck. Because I know you're a big fan of metal, and you've played with pretty much everybody at this point.
I played a lot of people. So that first package tour, Iron Reagan was on it.
Yeah.
And those dudes are a bunch of them are from Municipal Waste, which is a band I really like. But like I was talking to Tony earlier today, like Tony, the singer of Municipal Waste, like we have become such good friends since then.
Yeah.
And so he's got to be one of the coolest guys I've ever met through music.
Yeah.
And so like he's awesome. Probably starstruck was probably touring with Cannibal Corpse, because that was the first band that got me into death metal.
Yeah.
It's still to this day one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
Pat O'Brien, who's not in the band anymore, but that was his last tour with them because he got in trouble. But like being able to do his last tour with him, that was kind of a starstruck moment for me, because he was a big influence on my playing. Meeting Corpse Grinder and fucking all those dudes, that was like crazy to me. Being,
Are they
like,
cool? Are they chill dudes?
Awesome. They're just normal ass dudes.
They seem chill. I wouldn't know,
but that was a starstruck moment for me too. For sure, it was just like fucking Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah, right.
Just crazy.
It's like fuck me, dude.
yeah.
What about okay, I'm gonna ask actually. It just popped in my head right now.
Sure.
Didn't Post Malone like shout you guys out and hang out with you? I know that's kind of on the clout chasing tip, because I mean he seems like a great guy. I don't listen to him though. How was that?
So I've never met him. Chase and the other dudes, I don't know where the fuck that was, but they met him.
Oh, okay.
And then he just liked our band.
Yeah.
He just liked it. He was wearing our shirts.
Yeah.
Playing shows.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And then somehow him and Chase got in touch, and they hung out a bunch. And they would just like hang out and he was just a fan. He's just a fan of metal.
Yeah, I've heard.
Like he likes Power Trip and shit. And And so he, you know, he was just down, and then he put us on the Post Malone, the Posty Fest.
Yeah.
In Dallas, and he put us at the top of the flyer.
I didn't even know that.
So you gotta, I'll show it to you. So we were above like Megan Thee Stallion.
That's dope.
It ended up getting canceled because of COVID shit.
Okay, I was like, when did this happen?
But we were on billboards on the top. It was like Gatecreeper was the top. And so that like...
Please let me have that flyer.
You just find it on the
I'll look for
But
it.
it was so funny because I was just like... It was like crazy. Like,
yeah.
It was just really good. It was really good like exposure for us, I guess. But also... I thought it would have been really funny to play Post Malone Fest because people would have just been like, "What the fuck is happening?"
No, that's the dopest thing ever, dude. That would have been awesome.
I think they canceled it because he just got bands he liked, and it didn't really make any sense. And I
So?
think the corporate backers were like,
yeah, they're like, "This isn't gonna play out."
This isn't this.
Which I think it would have been like the best thing ever.
Yeah, it would have been.
I love when that shit goes down, dude.
Sick, yeah.
I would do anything to open for Megan Thee Stallion. No, headline over. Sorry.
Sure.
So craziest show. We could. We're not going to backtrack to the Drive Every Days only because.
Sure.
That's
maybe just Gatecreeper.
Just craziest show with Gatecreeper and craziest story from the road since kind of blowing up a little bit.
So we remember Gary's place.
Yeah.
We played a show at Gary's place, and we got like bands. We got bands from like Tucson. We got bands from Phoenix. We got a band. I forgot what it was, but there's a band from. Flagstaff all came down, you know, Get a Grip fucking played, like a bunch of bands played.
Yeah.
I was like grilling burgers outside and selling food. And we had like a raffle. I raffled off my cowboy hat that I had on in our first music video.
Yeah.
We just had like this big ass party. I was like DJing outside. And it was fucking packed. And like we had all these like blow up sharks and shit. People were just like going crazy. That was a really fun show. Another one, we played at a tire shop in like South Central LA. In this like really hard neighborhood. And it was just in a tire shop. And it was just these dudes from this gang called Azusa 13. And it was mostly them watching us.
Because no one else was allowed.
And they were all just fucking with their like colors on in the pit, like with their shirts off with like fucking stab fucking wounds and shit from back in the day, and like that shit was crazy. That was awesome. And they had tacos outside, so the lady made you tacos. And we didn't get they charged at the door, and then they just took the money. It was sick.
How is all right, story from the road?
Story from the road?
Anything crazy happen on tour that's worth noting?
Yeah, I mean, like one time, we were in like Iowa, like 2 a.m. I think we were on tour with Full of Hell. I remember driving, there's just fucking corn on both sides of the road, you know?
Yeah.
Like a horror movie, and the full moon was out. And this truck, this like 18-wheeler tries to knock us off the road. And we have like a 15-passenger van and a fucking U-Haul trailer.
Yeah. And
I kind of like slow down, and eventually I'm up on his ass again, and I pass him, and he tries to hit us off the road again. So I try to lose him. He comes, passes us again, tries to hit me off the road. He's flipping us off. And I kind of just slowed down and let him keep going. And then he pulls like diagonally into the highway.
Yeah.
It's like 2, 3 a.m. and stops.
Yeah.
In the highway, covering both lanes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck? So we were going down a hill, so I picked up like all my speed, and I went around on the side, on the shoulder. I went around him and tried to pick up, but like we're not going to outrun a fucking semi-truck.
Yeah.
And he turns off all his lights except for his track lights, like a fucking horror movie.
Yeah.
And you just see him fucking coming. He chased us for like ever. Eventually we got away, but I was just like, this dude's gonna fucking try to kill us.
Dead.
Like,
we're fucking dead.
That was like, long story short, but like that was a pretty cool night.
How would you compare, I mean, you've played some serious festivals and been going on like international tours.
Yeah, we did a lot.
And how would you compare the experience? And I'm not talking about necessarily small, 50-person shows.
Sure.
But, when you're playing like a regular venue, to maybe a few hundred people, maybe 1,000 people even, where it's packed in, a place like Gary's Place or a place like Congress, a place like Tool, how are those shows compared to playing like massive festival arena type
think
thing?
the biggest
What's the experience like, and is there any way you approach it differently?
Sure, I think the biggest we've done is 30,000 people.
Yeah.
And
which is insane.
I think that was Europe. Knotfest that we played in Iowa was like 20.
Yeah.
It's just a totally different thing because at those big fests, the crowd is like 100 yards away from you.
Yeah.
Because there's fucking subs and like huge thing in the and the security shit. But then you're playing at Gary's place and the kids are just right up on you.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just two different worlds.
Yeah.
But they're both exciting. So like of course
Yeah.
when you're playing a small venue and the kids are right up in front of you and you can like hear them and see them going crazy and it's hot as fuck, like you just like the energy you work off each other.
Yeah.
And it can get really crazy that way. But then like playing like Bloodstock or something, and you're playing to like shitload of people.
Yeah.
You can really feel the audience. Like you can hear them screaming between the songs. You can see the pit's huge. The pit can get huge.
Yeah.
But it's different because you don't feel it as much because they're just like I'm like 50 feet away from our drummer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just two different things. But one of the best feelings ever was after we played Knotfest. That was our first big fest.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, I want to do that every day.
Yeah.
It was so fucking cool.
I can only speculate, dude, but obviously the visceral feeling of being in a club or a smaller venue, I'd imagine it's hard to beat when you're like in there with it. But I mean, the sheer volume of people that you're like affecting and just seeing that in front of you has got to be like
something happens. There's like an energy.
It's like magic, dude.
Yeah.
We both read a little about the occult, dude. It's like fucking
exactly. But also, there's a lot of bands that play those big fests that have like they're playing through like computers and stuff.
Yeah.
We are just playing through amps, old school style.
Yeah.
And I think that people can tell.
Yeah.
And it's cool. They're experienced metal how I think it's supposed to be, and it's not just like fake like generated guitars. It's real guitars, and I think there's something to that.
So which would you rather do? There's no wrong answers, and you can say both. Would you rather play an insane show to 300 people in like small to medium sized venue?
Sure.
And just be on top of each other and have all your homies there? Or would you rather play an equally insane show but 30,000 people and they're 100 yards away behind a barrier and security?
I think this is just based on the fact that I've played a lot of 300-person shows.
Yeah.
During the course of the band, the huge fests, I've done less of those.
Yeah.
So I'd have to choose that. Just because I've done less
Well,
of
there's no shame in it either.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've done less
it's
of
strictly
them,
a matter of I wouldn't even call it preference, man.
And it doesn't mean that I love both.
Yeah.
But at this point, I've done less of those, so it'd be fun to do more.
Yeah. Also, you're getting paid, so that's I mean, hey, there's no shame in that at all. You guys definitely earned it. What? All right. So we're wrapping it up here, but this is going well. So one thing I've noticed, obviously, you guys have done pretty well. You guys are definitely, I would say, my observation, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I see and hear more about you guys because I'm from Tucson, obviously, whatever. But you guys have become kind of a quintessential metal act, it seems like. There's no shame in acknowledging that. Something I've noticed is, and it's kind of ironic considering how much, how big of a Cannibal Corpse fan you are, as popular as you guys are, I feel like maybe there's kind of like the Misfits, kind of like Cannibal Corpse. I see a lot of Gatecreeper merchandise.
Sure.
And I feel like maybe not as many people that rock your shit are necessarily pulling up the shows and listening to the CD every day. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. But
I know that, yeah.
It's like, how do you feel about that?
Sure.
And where do you credit your aesthetic to, and why do you think your merchandise is so popular?
So I put that back to when we first started. Like I said, we wanted everything to be as good as it could be.
Yeah.
And so even everything from flyers to music, so merch. So Chase is like the art guy. Like he's in charge of all the art. Either he makes it, or he gets people to make it, or finds people, or finds new artists. From like album covers to shirts, stickers, everything. And so we just want everything to be as good as possible. Like, we pay artists to make us stuff, and if we don't like it, we just don't use it. But we still pay them.
Yeah.
And so everything that we release we think is the best it can be for that. And so I think our merch, and all credit due to Chase, and he has a good eye too for what looks good. But it's just, we put as much into that as we put on the music. And so I think that people may have never heard us, but it doesn't mean our shirt's not cool.
Yeah.
So people might still like the shirt.
Yeah.
But it's not just like some bullshit.
No.
It's like the shirts are cool on
Yeah,
their own.
you made the shirt cool. Why would you want people to not?
We could just
think
have
they're
a
cool?
shirt company, and I think it would still probably do well.
Shit
So,
might
like,
be better, dude.
Exactly.
Let's open.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, it just comes back to like we try to have quality on everything we do. We really do.
And there's no denying that. And you know what? It's paid off, and you guys aren't not putting the work in, so nobody's got room to say.
Also, that's how you
about it.
fucking make money, and it's expensive to tour. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know why people don't focus on having better merch.
Yeah, I know. I mean, shit. I see some guys, and first of all, it's just cool. I think I like merch.
Yeah.
I don't go crazy. I wear the same goddamn thing every day, but I like collecting it to a degree, and I think it's cool and bands put work into it. But yeah, these days people, and it coincides with internet culture. I don't think it's necessarily one of the more negative things, but certain guys will pull up people that I got respect for, and they're like Nate No Face came to Tucson. And
Yeah.
his merch booth looked like a fucking Hot Topic because he had so many different shirts that he made. But I don't think there's any shame in that. I think it's cool.
No.
It's like, that's how you're not selling records anymore in 2024.
Sure.
And music, whether you want to look at it like a business or not, if you want to make it your livelihood, you're going to have to approach it that way to some degree. So I think it's important. And like,
But that's the thing too. It's a lot of people have too many shirts.
Yeah.
We're very methodical about what we have on a tour.
Yeah.
We have a white shirt.
Yeah.
We have a shirt with a lot of color.
Yeah.
And then we have a black and white shirt.
Okay.
And we have we have
A formula that
we
works.
want to cover the bases of what people might want, but we don't want too much.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like people can't decide what they want.
Yeah.
So like we're very meticulous about everything we do, and it comes down to that too. Not that we're just trying to sell shit, but it's like we want it to be cool. We want when you hear our music to for it to pop out, but we also when you're at the merch, when you're looking at everyone's merch, you want ours to pop out.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like other dude was doing anything disingenuous either. He seemed like he just had a good formula going for his own.
No,
thing.
everyone does their own thing. I'm just saying what we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's not the right way. It's just the way
no.
we do.
And I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't trying to throw any potential shade at that guy.
No.
But all right, so cool. We're getting real close, and this is going well, man. You guys obviously take a lot of pride in being from the Sonoran Desert. You're pretty vocal about it. It's obviously in your album covers and everything, your album titles. And I mean, it's a pretty self-explanatory thing, but is there any reason for that?
Well, just being from here, you're like, it's not really popping off.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, but it's it's
got its own kind of brutality.
When you're from Tucson, you're just like, I'm just going to play shows because it's fun.
In 115
You're not thinking you're going to fucking tour the world or anything.
Yeah.
So it's like we have been through hard work and some luck. We are now a part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And it's cool to bring attention to Arizona.
Yeah.
Because I love Arizona and I have some stupid pride about being from here.
Yeah.
It's a crazy place. Yeah. It's like a sports team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also
But
I'm from Tucson.
There's a lot of good music that comes out of Southern Arizona, and a lot of times it gets overlooked.
Exactly, and so I feel like if we just point to Arizona a little bit more, I think it helps. I think it can help the scene. I got a sponsored ad on Instagram for the Sonoran Desert Black Metal. It's a band I'd never heard of before, and they're playing Sonoran Desert Black Metal. And I guarantee you,
that's it.
They probably
they might
have heard that.
They might owe you a couple royalties. No,
but
I'm just joking.
But I've seen other death metal bands say that.
Yeah,
and it's I'm not taking credit for it necessarily, but it's now it's you're building things that people can use. To identify with, and it helps their bands out.
Yeah, it's also nice to see something I talked about in this magazine, not the one you're going to be in, but I was talking about how it's kind of difficult to create archetypes these days.
Yeah.
Everything that you produce and put online kind of gets eaten up by the algorithm, and it's if you don't fit that box, it kind of gets overlooked, and then you inherently don't get noticed. Whereas when shit took place in the real world, it was just a matter of how good you were and how much you ground, and then a lot of luck. But things would happen and really affect people's. So it's kind of cool that in this climate, you guys kind of managed to produce something like that. You know what I mean?
I've seen other bands with like saguaros and stuff in their art.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's a cool thing. I think that we should embrace it. And I think you're right. It makes an archetype. It makes symbols that we can all identify with, and then it becomes bigger than it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, last couple questions right now. You guys stay in the mix, man? Or I don't know what everybody else is up to, but I know, shit, man, like, I don't even fucking message you, dude. I just, like, if I feel like I gotta get a hold of you, I'm just like, well, I'll just go check out a couple of shows. I'll probably pump it up.
Sure.
You like going out, man. You like being around, and, I mean, obviously, it's not a mystery to me. I know you're a fan of this type of music, and you like the experience, and you want to be supportive, and it's just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So, like, do you feel like it's important that you kind of, I mean, even right now, I mean, you don't have to do this with me, but you are. And, do you feel like and you're also pretty supportive of vocal bands. I mean, we were at that little metal thing at the fucking, what was it, House of Bards or whatever?
Yeah.
Some of those kids were so stoked that you were there, dude. It was kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to
I'm
puff your ego up, but they were very excited that you saw it. Yeah.
Part of it is that, I mean, most of it is just, I'm still just the same dude from Dry River.
Which you are, yeah.
And I'm just like...
I will vouch for that statement.
I'm just a fucking dude, and I love music.
Yeah.
Like, when we toured with Cannibal Corpse, I moshed their whole set every night for 29 days.
Jesus Christ, you lose any weight?
Yeah, I did. I lost like 15 pounds. But it's because and a lot of people want to watch from the side stage. I just want to watch from the front.
Yeah.
I'll be in the fucking front, but I'll go to House of Bards and watch these kids because I think it's cool to see what's coming up.
Yeah.
But also, I want them to know, and I do this this is very intentional with my stuff. My setup, the pedals I use and the amps and stuff are all things people can just buy.
Yeah.
And I'm not hiding it. I want people to look at me and be like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so when I go to the House of Bards or I go wherever and I'm just trying to support a local band, I want to be up front and I want to be watching them because I want other kids to be like, damn, like I can go support. And I want kids to have like a positive role model. I'm not declaring myself as a role model, but I am an older person. And when we were younger, there was older people that we looked up to.
Yeah,
sometimes and down on because they sucked. I want to be a positive older person. And so I want to show people like, yo, you don't just blow off the first 3 bands that come to the headliner. Come and watch all the bands if you can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also I want to support death metal bands. Like I think Headhunt was playing that show. There's a bunch of bands.
Yeah.
Like I want them to know that like the older dudes aren't scary and we're just people. And if they keep playing death metal, they can be a part of it. There's no gatekeeping.
Yeah. Oh, sometimes they get a little too unscared, dude.
They do.
Sometimes I'm like, listen, man, if I was talking like you right now 15 years ago, I'd be getting beat the fuck out of.
Sure.
Just say. That's me at work.
Sure.
So, anyway, but
I rather lead through example than telling kids or telling kids that they're fucking up, and then just go to the show.
So, last 2 questions really, actually. And it wasn't actually on the list, but obviously you touched on it with the Dry River thing, and like, is there any kind of activism that you participate in that you would like to speak on? This isn't a political magazine by any means.
No.
However, I'm willing to voice anything that anybody's into because that's my responsibility, I believe.
I don't know.
Do you do anything?
I used to be so like vocal and stuff.
Yeah.
And I get backlash because like I don't post as much stuff about that stuff as I used to on my account. But the way I see it with my social media now is that everyone is posting stuff about all of the shit that's happening in the world, and I think it's completely fine. I think it's good. But I also think for people's mental health that there needs to be spaces where you can just focus on something else. And so like for me, I've kind of transitioned my social media over to like it's just about my band stuff. And you're not going to see a bunch of political stuff unless it's really important. But I think that there should be spaces where people can just chill. Because then you can recoup your brain for when you do see stuff. You can actually have energy for it.
Well, that's the thing too. There's so much shit getting thrown around. You don't even know it's real anymore.
Sure.
Which is like, that in itself is overwhelming.
I mean, like right now, like all this shit with like the politics. Like, I mean, both sides are fucked of the 2 systems we have, but I think the Trump side, I think the MAGA people are fucking crazy.
I think so too. But I'm like, Yeah, I feel like politics are basically being like. I was thinking about it. I think like new like political divides are like people that might be schizophrenic and don't believe anything.
Yeah.
And like want to own guns, and then people who clearly are too gullible.
Sure.
And need to stop judging so much. It's like, that's the dividing lines anymore. And they both. It's I don't even know what anybody cares about anymore.
No, it's just
I wouldn't believe. I wouldn't believe something I'd rather. If the news told me I was sitting here talking to you right now, I'd be like, well, I must not be doing that. So it gets hard, dude. It's weird.
I was at the gym 2 days ago or whatever, and that someone tried to shoot Trump or whatever.
Yeah.
And they had it on C-SPAN on the TV, and I was watching just on the treadmill, and he literally like goes, and I was like, this is fake.
That's what I said. I was like, this is fake. But then I'm like, shit, man. Like maybe someone did try to shoot him.
No.
You know what I mean? But I'm like, the first thing I saw, I was like, bullshit.
What I'm saying is now I'm like, okay, who knows? But
I don't want to endorse anybody getting shot.
My first reaction was, that's fake.
This is fucking everything.
And I was talking to my mom, and she's like, that's fake. And like, it's just like, it's like.
But then it's like, again,
we live in like a fucking weird world, man.
Post-reality, dude.
Exactly.
So, okay, I'm throwing this one in the mix, but this is the last two questions.
Sure.
You and Chase, respectively, have kind of become like a little bit of internet personalities, I guess, right? Like, I mean,
sure.
And I mean, I sincerely don't care about this stuff. I'm actually inherently against social media. However, I'm going to ask about it because it's interesting and sort of related. Has that affected you in any way? Do you get recognized sometimes? You have a lot of followers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how does that affect your life in any way, shape, or form?
It does. I think sadly it's just something that you have to accept about music now.
Yeah.
If you want to be a career band, you have to have social media.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I wish you didn't.
Yeah.
But you do. So I've embraced it. I try to be myself on there. I don't try to hide who I am. That's me. I do get recognized a lot. And we have noticed a difference between some of the guys in the band that don't have social media as much. Yeah. Like, and the people that do, you get asked for more interviews, and you're more. People literally will, just because your social media is bigger, they'll credit you with things that you didn't do. Yeah. And so, like,
because they hope that you're going to see it and then share it.
Or something. Yeah. So
that's exactly what they hope that you're going to see it and share it. So, and then it's like, even if they low key, that's what they're thinking.
Yeah. It's weird.
Even the people that aren't primarily motivated by that are probably like somewhere in their brain, like, oh, hopefully
it changes things.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I the weirdest thing is I'll have people come up to me and they'll be shaking.
Yeah.
And like, you know me, I'm just some fucking poor dude from Tucson.
Yeah.
Like, they'll be shaking and they're like, it's so good to meet you. I'm like, dude, I'm just a fucking dude. Like, you're probably doing better than me.
Yeah, right.
But. And then kids write me, like, people write me, like, every day, and they're, and I still try to write every single person back. It takes me a while sometimes.
Yeah,
I do a lot, but I try to do that. I don't know. I want people to see that I'm just a normal dude. So when I have my social media, I'm not trying to be some fucking supermodel or some bullshit. Like, I'm just a normal dude that eats food and sleeps and fucking gets tired and has normal days, just like anyone else. And anyone else can do that. If a kid wants to have a career in metal, they can fucking do it. You just got to work hard. Yeah. And that's what I want my social media to reflect. That's what I want everything to reflect.
Follow your dreams.
Exactly. And I think
if
it gives people...
If you can dream it, you can do it.
It gives people a chance to be like, oh, damn, he looks just like me, and he's in fucking Japan. And then kids are like, hopefully kids are like, I want to do that. I'm going to pick up a guitar. Everywhere. You know what I mean?
What about, what do you guys got planned? And closing statement. What's your ambitions for the future and anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, we got a couple fests coming up. We're playing in Edmonton. We're playing Full Terror Assault in Illinois next month, and then we're doing a U.S. tour, and it hasn't been like totally announced or confirmed yet. But we're doing a U.S. tour in September, and then we're going back to Europe and doing a tour with Enforced and Tuner Sabu. So it's our headliner.
Hell yeah!
Like a full Europe, like a month. We're doing we're playing a lot of new places. We're playing like some spots in Scandinavia we've never played. So that's cool. Basically, I've already started writing. So we just released an album like a month or two ago, and I started writing because I want the turnaround of the next one to be a lot quicker. Yeah. Because we took our good ass time with the other one.
So I just did this. I called you as soon as I finished this one.
Hell yeah.
because it took me so long to get this one done.
Yeah, you got to start.
I was
process.
like, I'm not taking another 3-month layover on something that no one even gives a shit about to begin with.
It's fun to have stuff working on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I like to write. You know, even if we didn't need a new record out, I would just be writing anyway.
Yeah, it's important for me to keep doing this no matter what. But
exactly.
I didn't want to lose my momentum either. I get very like tunnel vision.
Well, we've been trying to get together forever. I'm glad you just set it down.
Well, you went on
tomorrow.
You went on a world tour.
I was
so,
on
you know.
three months we were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, we're just like playing shows right now and trying to promote the record, and then and then next year we'll start thinking about getting the next one ready and releasing another one.
Well, I'll probably give Ray about 3 magazines.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say, man?
I don't know. Just shout out to Arizona, shout out to Tucson, and I always try to say like if you're reading this magazine, like you can do something like this too. Just because you don't play music, or if you do play music, you can get involved. Like you don't have to just be. And if you want to just be someone that listens to music or reads, that's cool. But you can also get involved. You can do anything.
Yeah.
You can do anything. Be creative with it.
Hey, you might find out you're doing something better than some other people
Exactly.
that are making a lot more money off of it than you.
Don't be afraid to jump in. People are generally nice and supportive. So.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, bro.
Appreciate you. This is fun.
Man.
End it right here.
Can't wait to see. It's fucking sick. It's fucking awesome.
Oh shit. Okay.